everyone, and welcome back to the Black Expat Experience, a podcast and live show highlighting the lived experiences of Black expats around the world. I am Kendall Tyson, your host, licensed therapist, and a fellow Black expat living in Beijing. And once again, we have another great guest and episode in store for you today. And so I would like to welcome Kiera Payne to the show. Hi, Kiera.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. So I've been shifting and doing things a little bit differently. Instead of me reading a bio about our guest, I want to give you the floor to tell us who you are. Give us a synopsis of who Kiera is. Introduce yourself to the world.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Kiera Payne. I am, I guess, a newer digital nomad. I'm actually a virtual assistant. I had launched my business December 2021, so it's coming up a year. And prior to me being a virtual assistant, I was in the Air Force for nearly 6 years, active duty. Woo-hoo. Okay. Yeah, so I had a huge career change. But now I'm just, traveling, trying to see the world. And yeah, that's pretty much it right now.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that you were Air Force.
I was. Yep, I was.
Oh my goodness. So my auntie Bev, is retired Air Force, 23 years, 9 months. I think that's master, I'm gonna get it wrong, master general or something like that. And when I was at UT in Austin, I did a brief stint with the Air Force ROTC because I really was considering going into the military as an officer. So
really,
it's so interesting.
That's crazy. Yeah, because the Air Force, it's pretty amazing. I would say out of all the branches, it's pretty good. Like, I feel like they set you up for success. Like, if you allow it. Yeah. If you allow it, then
I think anything can be successful if you allow it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So I'm curious, what got you interested in the military? Like, how did you, I know this is about expat life, but
I know.
How did that happen?
Honestly, in all honesty, the benefits. At the time I joined, I was actually at Western Washington University. I went there for 1 year and I was broke. So I needed I needed some money, and it just, life was not working for me. So, and I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do at school. So I just thought it would work if I joined the military. So that is what it is.
Amazing.
Yeah, so now we're here.
Right. You get to travel the world, learn really transferable skills, grow as a human, meet lots of different people. Where were you stationed while you were serving in the Air Force?
I was in Phoenix, Arizona at Luke Air Force Base. Okay. It's not really Phoenix, but the Phoenix area. Yeah. So, I mean, it was Phoenix. Well, I'm glad that I was stationed actually in Phoenix, because at first I was kind of like complaining about the area because I didn't really like I'm from Washington, so
climate.
The climate was so different. But over the years, I actually really enjoyed all the sun, and now I actually love being in the sun a lot. So yeah.
That is amazing. My auntie was, she still is in Midwest City at Tinker Air Force Base.
Oh, really? I know some people at Tinker. Okay.
Yeah, this is oh my goodness.
Okay.
I love when I talk to people and there's all these lines and connections that are made. It's always so interesting to me. So let's dive in. I'm already intrigued, obviously. When you think about the life that you've chosen to provide for yourself, becoming an expat, I'm wondering what were some of the driving factors that drove you to living as a nomad expat, or how would you describe yourself?
Oh my goodness. I feel like my story is, well, I don't think it's that unique, but the reason why I left the United States, I'm currently, okay, I'm disclaimer. I'm in the United States right now, but I just got back actually, um, just because of the holidays. So, and it was also my birthday. So,
Happy birthday.
I just got back. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But I just got back. And so, but I'll be leaving. So that's a disclaimer. Anyways,
I get it.
anyways, but literally all this year I was gone. Like I out. Anyways, so okay, so like basically I have always wanted to travel. I had, well, that was also one of my motivators as to why I wanted to join the Air Force, along with all the other benefits. Um, I got to travel a little bit when I was in the Air Force, not as much as I'd like to, but I knew the only way I would be able to do that is actually get out, which I did. But prior to me leaving the Air Force, I was on this journey to discovering a little bit more of who I am and my roots. Um, and I just kind of had this quarter life crisis where I was really doing this deep dive into um, my heritage. And so I did a DNA test. I would say 2019? Yeah, I think it was 2019. And I found out, where I'm from, the whole shebang. And I became like engulfed in learning everything about the countries, the tribes. Obviously, I'm from Africa, like representing, like I'm African, and I'm proud to be African. And so I found out I was from Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea-Bissau.
Wow.
And so that started my journey to basically, I know that there's a lot of Black like expats or like Black repatriates right now, especially right now. Like there's so much migration there. I don't know if that's something you've noticed, but I'm one of those people that has taken interest in the continent.
Mm.
And so my deep dive, like I was literally spiraling. Like the more and more I like learned, the more and more I became so self-aware about a lot of things, and I knew I needed to be on the continent, and I knew I needed to be back home, as I call it. So yeah, and so I really worked hard to do that, but I had to obviously visit first. And so actually when I was in the Air Force, this is right before I separated, I actually took leave to go to Sierra Leone. Mm-hmm. And so that was like my first experience, and it was absolutely amazing. That's a whole other story in and itself, but the motivator to why I am on this, I guess, journey to traveling and seeing the world, plus seeing Africa as a whole, like in a whole different light than what I had seen previous years before, or than what I thought previous years before, has changed. And so I'm kind of just on that journey right now.
Yeah. So. Oh my gosh. So I hear self-actualization. I hear heritage. I hear connection. And I also hear action in everything that you said, because a lot of people, do the DNA testing and don't necessarily put their feet to the floor to do that deep dive of self-discovery and identifying your roots. So I'm really happy for you. Like I can see the pride and the happing exuding as you were describing your foray in Sierra Leone. That's so interesting. So I'm wondering, it sounds as if that making that decision to learn more about your heritage paid off.
Yes. Like I can't even describe like the happiness I feel when I'm in Sierra Leone. Um, and just the things that I plan to do, like while I'm on the continent, like that's just like a whole other thing. But I'm glad that and the thing is like I don't even know what it was. Like maybe I don't know what it could have been because I didn't really grow up around um I don't know. I didn't really I wasn't really growing up around like I guess other West African people. Um and I feel like my family we don't really know about that. A lot of Black Americans don't really talk about Africa as a whole. So I kind of had to discover that myself, which was kind of difficult because I didn't have a community around me. I didn't know anyone. I didn't really know. I think at the time I might have known like a couple of West Africans, like a few, like, now I know a bunch, but like, it was kind of difficult because you're kind of learning from the start and you don't really know where to go. So YouTube becomes your best friend, and like Facebook, and those are the only people that you can kind of connect with. But the people in your community and like the people at home, like not really not really with it. They're not on the same page. So
Yeah, right. I mean, and when you think about it, most, I would say, lay people, especially with the lives that we've chosen to live, the perspective is just different as far as their day to day, right? And
mm,
they, I mean, and obviously there's nothing wrong with how the decision that you've made and how other people that aren't really living an expat nomadic life,
mm.
what they choose. It's just a really different level of awareness. And I wonder, how did you feel as you were going through this journey, seeking community and struggling, maybe, if that's the right word, to find that
Mm.
in your immediate community?
Yeah, it was difficult in my immediate, like, prior to going to Sierra Leone. Yes, in my immediate community, definitely difficult. And also a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misconceptions about the continent. I received a lot, which also kind of um, thrown in. I also with like misinformation and things like that, which are things I had to seek out myself and have to educate myself. Um, and I honestly think a lot of that, I guess, misconception comes from a lot of fear, especially within the Black community, because like that's one thing I notice is that, well, I don't know if this is possibly like with my family or like with other Black individuals, but I feel like Black people as a whole, just, and this is just because I've traveled a lot and I've been places, and one thing I've seen as a common trend is there's not a lot of Black people traveling
Mm.
like our other counterparts are.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So because of that, I found it hard to try to connect. But when I went to Sierra Leone, and even when I started traveling as a whole, I started to see the world so differently. And I also started to see other Black women, especially Black women, like Black women. Black women are amazing, especially Black women.
Oh.
Yes, yes, we're amazing. We are outside, like we're doing things, we're traveling, and like they have made, like the Black women I have met and connected with have made the transition easier, have made it easier for me to make friends. And that's what's been making it easy for me. And that's kind of like been my community. Anytime I try and go anywhere, I find we're trying to help each other because there's not a lot of us. So when there are some, we try to help each other in any way that we can. So that's very nice.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that
Mm-hmm.
you've had people to wrap their arms around you as you embark on this journey. And you're right. We literally spearhead, we are the culture. We are the purveyors of culture, and everyone else, takes pieces of what we
Mm,
live every
mm,
day, and
mm.
make look amazing, even though, as you know, as a Black woman, it can be extremely challenging on most days. So I'm just really glad that through this process, you've been able to collaborate with and connect with others and help to usher you through this journey. It
Yeah.
sounds amazing, right? It feels
Yeah.
like hearing you describe this. One of my first interviews was with the founder of Expat, Shar. And
Oh,
some
no way.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
one of the best. I mean, I love all my interviews, obviously. One of the
Yeah.
best that I've had and the most watched. Um, and some other individuals that I was connected to, from her, Ty, and then Margot. Margot was another one that I loved. And how they described to me the Black women community in Portugal, because that's one of the places that I'm considering part-time when I do repatriate. Um, just the level of love and support and community that they describe, I'm so jealous. No,
Yeah, it's
I'm ready to get out of
amazing.
Beijing and go to Portugal so I can just revel in what that feels like. And just to hear you echo a very similar sentiment, whomever watches this, I really hope that they understand that no matter how small like the decision or where they choose to go, that there are others that are gaining some life just by being in the vicinity, watching, them live their best life. So thank you for sharing that. I'm
Yeah, there will always be a community for sure.
yeah.
Like there'll always be, well, not every place, but most, because there's some country you could go to and it's really kind of difficult.
uh,
But in light of the difficultness, there's
yeah.
still those, there's still those few. But you're right. Like I hope that other Black women who are watching this like know that like we're there, like other Black women are there, like we'll be in the trenches with you, like you need something, or something like that, like connect, especially on Facebook. Like that's where I've been, getting the most
Okay.
from my community is through Facebook. And then also too, when I'm on the continent, I've met obviously a lot of friends through other friends and stuff like that, but it's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, I need to do more on Facebook. I promise I don't, but I can make that goal for 20. So
Yeah, no, Facebook's great.
yeah, for certain purposes, for sure.
Yes,
This
for
being
certain
one of
purposes,
them.
yeah.
So share with us, like, when you were thinking about going to Sierra Leone, what were some of the deciding factors that factored into your final decision?
Yeah, so to be quite honest, so so basically my final decision would definitely have to be, because I know I'm from 3 countries and I was supposed to visit the other 2 at the same time as Sierra Leone, but COVID hit and threw a wrench in those plans. So I actually ended up going to Sierra Leone. I will go to Liberia and Guinea-Bissau soon. But Sierra Leone, what solidified it for me was the first time I went to Sierra Leone. I went through an organization. It's not a tour group. So we're gonna throw that out. It's more of like an organization. They're called the Temini Abara Nation. And that's the tribe, one of the tribes that I belong to.
Wow.
Is the Temini people, right?
Wow.
I know. And so basically I went with them the first time I went to Sierra Leone, which mind you is not a tour group. It's more of like I feel like the Timnea Bar Nation allowed me to see more of the authentic side of Sierra Leone. And they also linked us with already like our own, like basically giving us like, as soon as we landed, we had like family on the ground. And that's basically what they did. Like they're introducing other Black Americans to already like modern day like Temini people, like or modern day Temini people in Sierra Leone. and basically linking us together so we can collaborate, so we can learn from each other, so I can learn from them, and just kind of like grandfathering us in. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense.
And so basically, so I went through that whole experience, right? And I can't remember, it might have been like maybe a week into me being there. We had a naming ceremony. And when I tell you, so this was like what where I was like, yeah, this is home. Because these people who I see them as family now, but at the time I was like, wow, these people who don't know me are welcoming me so much that they're giving me a naming ceremony, one that I should have had, right? I didn't have one. So I just thought that was a beautiful thing. And so you're taking the time and you're giving me a naming ceremony. And it was just such a beautiful thing. And how they did the naming ceremony to make us feel included, like in the family, they would give us namesakes. Like they would name us after a grandparent or a grandfather or an aunt or cousin in the tribe.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is dope for one.
Listen.
For two, I'm shocked right now because I've just never felt this amount of love. That's what it felt like, you know? And so yeah, that was what kind of that is what solidified it with me. And I don't see myself wanting to live anywhere else. If, like, let's say I chose to not live in Sierra Leone, I would live in West Africa or choose somewhere on the continent. But right now, I'm from Sierra Leone. I love Sierra Leone. Best beaches in West Africa, period. So yeah, and obviously my now Temini family who is welcome me, and anytime I come back to Sierra Leone, I have a place to stay, and yeah, so they're amazing.
I just got chills when you were describing the fact that they give you a namesake. It's like and you said how you felt like grandfathered in. Yeah, I completely get that. I feel like this already established bloodline, that you have a connection to, that you are now a part of, and that you get to partake in all of the history and further the connection. It sounds so fulfilling.
Yep. It's like all of, like, in that moment, like just reflecting back to that like moment, it was like very it felt like I don't know, this is so like this is I don't know how to explain it, but it almost kind of felt like I was robbed of not knowing not knowing about the continent. Like I wish I would have known sooner. Like, I'm 26.
Ooh, baby.
And I had
baby. Oh my God, I'm one of those older
Please stop.
Jesus.
Please stop. But wait, I feel like I wish I would have known about my roots sooner. Like, and I feel like it's a tactic. This is a whole other conversation, but I feel like it's a tactic to keep us Black people separate from where we really come from. And it made me kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, wow, like this was here this whole time. Like this place was here, and I didn't know. I didn't like grow up, saying I want to take a vacation to Africa.
Yeah.
No, we grow up saying we want to go to see the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And then there's nothing wrong with that. It just made me like realize like what I was missing. And I don't know, I just wish I would have. And so I think in that moment, just like me just reflecting and things like that, I was like, I have to stay here. I need to learn more. And then it's deeper than just me, because one day I'm going to have children and I want them to automatically know. I don't want them to have to go through this journey to, this was a lot. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, and
yeah.
they'll have their own journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like we can lament all the things that we've missed out on for a variety of reasons, right? But then I wonder what it feels like to revel in the fact that only because of a small decision that you made has it ballooned and blossomed into being rooted in something that you had no clue about, that now is a real part of
Exactly.
life.
And it gets better.
Please share.
So yes, it gets better. So what also makes, I think, me a little unique in this story is that I'm one of the few African Americans that actually got the citizenship that Sierra Leone was giving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm one of the few. Like, there's not that many of us. There's probably like a couple hundred or so. I don't know how many exactly. I could be wrong about that, but so yeah, I actually got my citizenship. So I'm now dual citizen of Sierra Leone. I literally took the plunge. Literally got my passport and got my citizenship, swore in and everything. And so yeah.
Oh my goodness. I really hope that you are chronicling this some way. I'm a fervent, like I used to be an English teacher, a writer myself. I'm a fervent believer that everybody has a book or two in them, and just listening to what you're describing and the bravery that you've had to like tap into to do all of this, because I'm sure it's laced with disappointment, but then a lot of gifts, right? Citizenship, naming ceremonies, having family established in Sierra Leone, all from a DNA test. It really sounds like,
I know.
I could see
It's wild. It's actually wild. Like, I'm looking back and I'm like, I went from a girl who had, when I tell you, yes, I am a foundational Black American, but when I tell you I didn't have any ties to the continent of Africa, didn't learn anything, wasn't talked about growing up, and to like think like, and I never even thought about going to Africa, like never, it was not something that was really embedded in me or even thought about. And it's not because I had anything, it was just it's just how I grew up. I wasn't exposed to it. And I just find it interesting because as I've gotten older, it's like something was pushing me somewhere to it's like something was pushing me to gain more knowledge, and I did. And I just find that interesting because there's a lot of people that don't, and I just wish that they would. And you don't even have to visit the continent if you don't want to, but like, try to gain a little bit of knowledge and stuff like that, I think is helpful.
Yeah.
So
in perspective. So I would encourage you to figure out a way to share the different parts of the journey with the public. Yeah, the things that happen in our lives aren't necessarily for us. Yes, they happen to us. We are in the midst of them, but I do believe that our journey is also meant for others to unlock their freedom, their healing, their, travel journey, learning their heritage. If we're brave enough to be open to being that catalyst for other people to be liberated in thinking, feeling, just really living more authentic lives.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think this is an obvious question. Since all of this has happened, I know that your life has changed. That's clear, right? I would like to know what has been thus far one of the most defining moments for you of your time abroad.
Definitely, I would have to say, I guess a defining moment would have been like, just kind of like when I was like in the thick of it, like One of my friends, Millie, we used to go to like a little cafe and like work, and because there's like little cafes in Sierra Leone, you can go and work. And so we were just kind of like working and just chilling, drinking, eating, whatever. And I'm working, doing my assisting because that's what I do. So, um, and I was just like, wow, like I know that's a really generic point, but I was just kind of like, wow, like I'm really here in Sierra Leone and I made a way for myself, you know. Yes, a huge major career change. Um and it's been difficult being a virtual assistant. It's not easy starting your own business by any means. Um but that was my defining moment, the fact that I made a way.
Mm.
Um and it's as simple as that. Like the fact that I was able to do that was mind-blowing to me. And I'm not at my potential yet, but just the fact that I knew that I was capable of doing it, I just, to myself, I was like, there's no excuses. If I want to do it, I'll do it. And so that was,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is
Yeah.
evident in everything that you've described thus far. Going into the
Yep.
airport, making that difficult decision, which clearly
Yep.
is beneficial for you, choosing to move to Sierra Leone, really explore your heritage, and then
Mm-hmm.
venturing into business for yourself as an entrepreneur. I can tell you it is not for the faint of
It's
heart.
not. It's
And
not.
it's
It
just a
is not.
level of like trust, self-trust, and
Yep.
commitment. I feel like most days I feel I'm like, why
Yeah.
did I do this to myself? But then
Yeah.
when things work out, it's like, oh, that's why. Oh, I have freedom. Or
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate that. So it's just hearing you really, I really hear that you are in tune with yourself, or at least more in tune with yourself. I think the more that you mature,
Mm.
and see more of the world and explore more things for yourself, I really hear
Yeah.
that. Because a lot of times I notice people allow fear, myself included, to
Yep.
stop them from taking these big, bold moves and steps. And then
Yep.
there's always this pang of what could have been.
Yeah. Yep. And I've been there. Yep.
Of course. I will
Yep.
definitely say that you are young enough, right, to where you have so much more ahead of you. So these are literally the building blocks to a very more solidified future, more aligned living, I like to say. So I wonder, what would you tell you said 26, right?
Yes.
Oh Lord, 26. What was I doing at 20? Probably stuff I should have been doing. What would what advice would you give to other young, beautiful 26-year-old Black women about choosing themselves?
Ooh, that is really hard. Let me think. I would have to say just I would have to say like move in silence
Girl, listen. Ooh,
because the only reason I say that is just because you're gonna have those people, and I feel like, especially being a Black woman, there's a lot of people trying to do stuff to slight you. So whether that's in the whether that's in your personal life, whether that's in the workplace, especially in the workplace, as I've gotten older, I've noticed in the workspaces especially, there's a lot of that going on. But just move in silence because I feel like they don't want us to succeed. um and we do. We're amazing. So yeah. That's
Yes.
that's all I got to say with that.
I think that's
Yeah.
honestly some very salient advice. Move in silence. We often hear like the quote that insecurity is loud, but strength is silent, right? So being
Hmm.
able to build those building blocks of the foundation that's going to help you acquire the future that you want, it takes a lot. And as you shared, and definitely as I've experienced, everybody that's in your boat is not rowing in the same direction as you. Some are drilling holes, some are rowing the other way.
Mm,
Um, I think to move in silence, if I can add to that, it requires
mm,
a really high level of like trust in yourself and
yes.
prioritization of your wellness,
Yes.
which we'll get into, shortly. You have to have a strong vision for your future, um, have an idea of what you're working toward as opposed to what am I trying to move away from. If I'm constantly
Mm,
running from something, I'm not giving the energy to the thing that I'm trying to acquire. So really shifting your thinking from I don't want this to this is what I want, and I'm going to devote my time, my energy, my expertise to this.
mm,
And everybody doesn't deserve to be a part of that. So I agree with you.
mm, mm.
Y'all move in silence. If I could sign, I would. But I
Yes.
cannot. So let me ask you, I can only imagine just the emotional roller coaster of all of these huge transitions that you shared with us, from leaving the military to moving to Sierra Leone, starting your business. Um, how do you think, or yeah, how do you think your mental health has been impacted through these really intense transitions that you're probably still living through?
Yeah. So, man, my mental health, it's definitely, yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster. Um, and that's expected, you know, a lot of changes happening in my life. Like, I think on social media, I make it seem like um every day is a party because I'm somewhere new,
Yeah.
but that is just not the reality. Um, and so prioritizing my mental health is actually something I'm currently working on and trying to do, just because it's not something. I feel like I'm one of those people that tends to suppress things rather than actually expressing like how I'm feeling and just kind of letting go. And that's something I'm working on. But it also, I feel like, attributes to my upbringing, just because I feel like sometimes there were times maybe you couldn't be vulnerable. I don't know. So I guess I'm working on having better mental health practices for myself. Um, Especially during this time, like I've definitely developed new ways to cope with things, especially when you're traveling alone, especially when you're traveling alone. I don't mind being alone. Like I'm one of those, I could go to a restaurant and eat by myself.
Oh, for sure.
Um, like I really could, like it doesn't bother me.
Right.
Um, but there are those instances where like when you're alone and you need help and like there's no one and you're like in a whole other country and your car breaks down, which happened to me. So yeah.
But you made it.
Anyways,
But you
but
made
I
it.
made it. And that, like things like that where it was like I don't have anyone here to help me. So, you know, yeah. So things like that, little things like that. But yeah, still trying to figure that out and
I hear you.
prioritize my mental health.
I hear you. Thank you for that candor, right? I'm wondering, what have you noticed that at this juncture of your life you need to be your best self mentally and physically? Like what are the things you need?
Who? Um, community helps.
Mm.
Yeah, community helps. And not just any old community, like people who are like genuine, people who are um people who you can also like vent to and stuff. And also, I think what helps is like, not for me, but just I think also to just for like anyone, is education. Like I feel like I never really, I guess no one really told me like, or I guess I wasn't really taught like it's okay to like be vulnerable. It's okay to go talk to a therapist. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. You know, I think that there should be more talk about that, because that could help a lot.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yes.
It segues very nicely into the next question.
Yes.
You think about like culture and family of origin and messaging and attitudes surrounding mental health, mental wellness. I wonder, what has that sounded like historically for you growing up?
Yeah, and I feel like it was more, I just, okay, so this is like for the Black community, I feel like it wasn't talked about, and I feel like it was kind of also kind of frowned upon if you're seeking help. Um, you know, it kind of came off that way. But within my immediate family, I feel like it wasn't really something that was like I'm trying to really think. I feel like it was more, it wasn't in a way that was like um it wasn't like mental, it wasn't like, for example, like my mom would like check on me and, you know, ask me how I'm doing, and say things to like make me happy, or kind of reflect about my day with her, things like that. But it wasn't ever like, you know deep diving into like my mental well-being. um and it wasn't because, and it could also just be just because that's just how it is. Like I don't think, um even with like, yeah, I've never really had really family deep dive into like, let's, pick your brain. Yeah. So yeah.
I get that. Sometimes it's more of the expression of the care, right?
Yes.
Isn't talk. How are you
That.
feeling? Do you want to eat? Think, especially with food. Um, not, I think sometimes I believe because we have so many barriers to entry when it comes to access to mental support in most, if not all, Black communities around the US for sure.
Hmm.
Because expat wise, there's additional layers with not being a national of that country, not really understanding the system well. And I would even venture to say that as we plan our foray into these other countries, mental health support isn't one of the tick boxes that we're making sure that we plan for, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this show, is for people to know, all right, you're planning, what is it like to live in this other country? I also need you to identify, how are you going to care for your mental health? What's the system of support? What are the medical resources that you need? What do you need to bring with you? And things like that, so that you're optimally well, right? We don't necessarily have access to these things in the United States as Black people, as a community, systemic wise, on purpose. And so that seeps into our daily lives, that there's not the verbiage or the language. Are you anxious? Right? Are you experiencing depression? Are you battling
The
suicidal?
language.
Yeah.
Yes. That, I resonated with that very well. The language, we are afraid to say those things. Depression, suicide, anxiety, things, those words are uncomfy to some people, some families. Yeah, sometimes people don't even talk about those things in their household. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And then as Black women, sometimes I think it's even a little bit more challenging.
Mm,
Existing with this strong Black women trope, this
yeah.
which is hella detrimental. Um,
Yeah.
but I really feel that we are breaking out of that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
that oh, what do I call it?
And I also, not to cut you off, but
Go ahead.
like with the strong woman trope, like that's why I strive to be like more feminine. Like I want to be more feminine. I used to not want to be like at all. Um and now that's kind of like all I think about is like what can I do to make myself more delightful to people and more inviting and just being a woman and like so I'm glad that I feel like I'm surrounded more with more Black feminine women now, like, and I feel like growing up I was surrounded by a lot more of this quote unquote like stronger Black women type. And that's because of the environment, and that's also because of I also just feel like that's just because like that's how the community kind of portrayed us as, and like there was just no other way to be. Um, and I want to break away from that completely. Like I don't want to be strong. I want to be delicate.
Listen,
And
that is not a compliment to me. I don't want to be. I want to be soft and
yes.
and firm in the way that I do things. I really, what you just said, the contrast that you noticed with I think women in the earlier part of your life having to be strong. There probably isn't any other option. And then contrasting that with the women that you're in community with now, having the option to engage in more rest, be more leisure, still get things done.
Yes.
But I wonder, does it also kind of seem that we're no longer tethered to everybody else's expectations? So that's a weight chosen to let go of.
Exactly. For sure. We don't necessarily, and I would have to say actually, I'm losing my words, but like people, I think people do have this idea of Black women. Um, and the only reason, like, I feel like as I grew up, I was kind of like, I didn't know that this was something that people, I guess, saw me as until like people would actually say it, like in your face. Like for example, like somebody who I had known for years, right? And were maybe like reflecting on like the first time they might have saw me or met me, and they had concluded without even knowing who I was, like, oh, you seemed like you were mean, or you
A little
seemed
bit.
like you weren't nice. Yeah, right. And I was like, wow, like I can't tell if that's because I gave off that, or because like that's just how society is portraying us. And if that's the case, then I need to change something about myself. But like maybe I don't need to change what's about myself. Maybe I've always been like, because I feel like I'm like I feel like I seem kind and delightful person. But I honestly just think Black women collectively, I think we're trying to change that narrative so that more people don't like assume that, I don't know. So
No, I hear you. And I actually I want to push back a little bit. I know I get what you're saying, right? I think it's probably a combination of both who we are and more so what the world is conditioned to believe that we are. I don't really think that we're trying to shift the narrative. I think that we are more comfortable in ourselves and our beings and our collective, magic and power and um ability to persist as a group of women, that it's Well, y'all gonna think what y'all want to think anyway. So I'm just gonna be over here fabulous and getting things done and growing businesses and, building community and loving on women that look just like me that want to thrive. I'm gonna do that. Y'all can do what you want. However you perceive me is your business. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's just interesting because it's like you don't realize these things are like, because like you don't realize these things are happening, or you don't realize that you're being like portrayed that way until you're like, I guess, in your, like, when you're in adulthood, when you're in the thick of adulthood and you're starting to see these little nuances. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, that's why I also think it's good for us to get outside of our communities, our born communities, and the country. The other people in the world, some places see us very differently. And that's, I think, on a spectrum, of course. But when we recognize that there's so many people in the world that do value us in a favorable manner, I want to go where I'm celebrated, and respected and appreciated. And yes, that is present in some places in the United States, but we have to really work hard to cultivate that, right? Hopefully more people have the experience that you've had when, coming home to Sierra Leone and being welcomed with open arms and now being a part of family, right? Which I strongly believe gives us as women the opportunity to let some of the wall down and not feel so guarded and have to be protective of ourselves because the world is not very kind to us. And then we can, I don't know if softer is the word. I think it's allow the internal compassion that we have to really shine through, and the nurturing capabilities that we have to really be at play, because we're not working so hard to survive and coach ourselves through so many difficulties that we experience. So when I hear what you've shared so far, I hear there's a lot of healing in all of that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So let me thank you so much for everything that you've said so far. When you think about resting and caring for yourself, like, what are some things that you began to adopt, practices that you began to adopt, that really allows you to be still, move at a slower pace, and really just take care of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like in my daily life, I try to, in terms of taking care of myself, I definitely turn away from like social media and, making sure I'm getting proper sleep, touching grass. And I
Yeah.
actually mean that. Like I
No, yeah,
actually
that's grounding.
mean that. Yes. And just like working on being present, because I think I'm finding that more difficult to do, um because we're in this like social media era, and like lately I've been using a lot of social media because I'm trying to create like content, which is also
A lot.
not not fun. I
I agree.
I I don't even think I'm gonna, I might not, I don't even think I'm gonna continue. I Every day I just want to completely delete everything. Like I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but every day I just want to shut it all off. But yeah, just working on being more present um is some things that I do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
In those moments of difficulty that you face, what I often encourage like people to do is to just be still and notice like what's happening, right? What's happening within you, internally around you, and what's triggering that need to just quit. A lot of times it's fear, a lot of times it's feelings of incompetence, Will you be accepted? Is it going to be good enough? All of these things that really keep us stuck, but it's just knowing that it's a process, right? In order to get to excellence is something that you can strive for every day, even as a novice, right? But in order to get to that point to where you feel more comfortable, or you can hire somebody to do that for you, it is pushing through like those pregnancy pains of starting something new. I need to write that down. That this all the time.
That's a word. That's a word.
Like the most recent affirmation video I did today actually came out of a therapy session I have with a client this week. And I was like, oh yeah, gotta write it down. And
let me write that down.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, please take it.
No, I'm actually I'm glad that I'm here. Thank you for this is I was hoping this was going to be more of a conversation, and I felt a little like nervous. So like I'm just really appreciative, because it's hard for me to kind of like articulate how I feel about things and kind of sharing my little slice of me, because I'm a very private person. So I just wanted to thank you for inviting me in such a good way.
You're so welcome. Like the key is to make you feel comfortable. And it honestly, it is a conversation. And it's also knowing that the things that we feel really weird about in ourselves, somebody else does too. So when you lean into that, it is giving someone else possibly license to realize that, oh, she did it, so I can too. There's nothing different, right? But what I'd like you to really like ponder is looking at all the things that you've done that most people in the world cannot, won't do, and figuring out what is that common thread that you have within yourself that allows you to make these big, bold moves and take these steps and lean into that and push through. And you can do the very same thing with this new thing that you're creating. So I do want you to, I'm giving you homework.
Yes. I'm literally taking this all in. Like this, this ended up being literally the highlight of probably like my month. So, or actually it's the start of the month. I meant to say like, you know what I mean. Anyway, this is the highlight.
I'm so glad.
Yes, like, this is definitely.
I'm learning so much from you as well. And I just have just a few more questions. We're nearing the end of it, but this conversation is really like fulfilling for me as a 41 woman, you know, seeing what you're doing as a 26-year-old woman and really trying to live life on your own terms. I know that's scary, but it's so worth it. So answer this for me. What are your thoughts on vulnerability?
I believe being vulnerable is good. I really commend people that are able to be vulnerable like all the time. Is it something that I can do all the time? No. I feel like this interview is probably one of the most vulnerable things I've done. Just even being here. So I'm open to it, and I feel like that was like one of my goals for this year is to be more open. And so doing this interview allowed me to be more open to vulnerability, because before I was like very closed off person, and I even kind of like side-eyed people that would like overshare. And I think, okay, to some extent, I feel like depending on how much you overshare, but to some extent, I feel like it's okay to sometimes, you know, share a bit. And obviously to people you trust, don't overshare to like some random person that could like use that against you or something. But to be vulnerable in safe spaces is good and delightful, and it makes you feel good. So.
I really want you to write that down. Vulnerability within safety.
Yes.
That's part of it, right? Everybody doesn't deserve those really secret parts of you. And I think it's an exercise in self-awareness to first know who you are, be accepting of who you are, and it's also an exercise in really connecting with people and identifying what does a healthy connection look like for you to identify. Is this person trustworthy enough? Will they take care of the things that I'm sharing that matter so much to me? Yeah, and move accordingly. Because everybody can't. Everybody doesn't have the capacity. And those people you have to, and I don't believe in like transactional connection or relationships, but most people serve certain purposes in your lives. Everybody's not supposed to be in that realm of I can be completely myself with you, not just a version of myself. Yeah. I want to ask this question about healing, and I get the sense that you've been on this healing journey. What does that look like for you? Like when you think of healing, what comes to mind?
I would have to say you definitely have to, at least for me, you have to at least try to be open in some way, and allow that to happen. Because if not, that would be kind of like difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say just kind of like trust yourself and show yourself grace, a lot of grace, because it's not easy. Like, healing is not easy. Self-discovery, like, trying to learn new things about yourself, challenging yourself. It's not easy. So you really have to show yourself grace.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so.
I agree with you. I want to ask one last question regarding mental health, and then I have just a few more when it comes to like what you're doing career-wise, and connection. When you think about like the advancement of mental health in your home community, and I assume that you're in Phoenix, or are you in Seattle?
No, I'm in Seattle. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, Phoenix was Air Force. When you think about the advancement for Black people, other, BIPOC people in Seattle and in Sierra Leone, I'm wondering what would be some must-haves that you would like to see move forward?
Ooh, I know that. Did I write that one? I think I did write that one down because
Find your answer.
Because there was something I specifically wanted to say about that. I would have to say there definitely needs to be more conversations. A lot more, especially like I want to speak, I guess, to Sierra Leone. First, there definitely needs to be more conversations, more programs. I see, I haven't been in Sierra Leone very long, but there's not a lot of programs, or let me rephrase it. There's not a lot of resources. Like here in the States, there's resources, they're not always the greatest, but there are resources here if you try to seek them. That's a whole other conversation, but I've had friends who have had trouble seeking resources. But for those that can, they have the opportunity to, right? In Sierra Leone, that's not a thing. And also talking about mental health is not a thing. So that's one thing. And then within like my community, especially the Black community, definitely just more discussion, just going back to that first point, more discussion, more normalization, period.
Enough said.
Yeah.
I think actually fabulous. The more that we talk about it and normalize these conversations, like you said, and shine light on the very real existences that people are having, like lots of Black women deal with anxiety and depression that manifests differently, or lots of, Black men have, depression. It looks very different, or even trauma, how it,
Yep.
runs through our community. So I would
And
agree.
also more resources for the Black community specifically. Like, I actually, this is like a side note, but I saw this TikTok video about this man that I follow on TikTok, and he was basically saying he's like a vet, right? And he was, in the military for 20 plus years, got out, retired, seeking mental health or counseling or like therapy, right? And he went to the VA, and he was like, I know, he was like, I would like
Right.
to, speak to speak to speak to a therapist, but I'd like it to be another Black man. And I felt bad for him, because I was just like, man, like this man, he is like clearly needing help, and he's clearly asking, for another Black man, because, they can understand. He was basically trying to explain, because he was basically on the phone with the guy, and he was like trying to explain why he needed a Black therapist.
And he shouldn't have
And so exactly, he shouldn't have to do that, but he did. And basically the guy just went on and was like, you sound like you're crazy, you sound like you're racist, well, throwing all these things, right? Just being very hateful towards this man. And it just like made me realize, I was like, actually, yeah, we really don't have a lot of therapists for us. So that really needs to change. That needs to be a thing. Or there needs to be like, there might be, and I could be, actually there might be, I'm like, is there like a website or like a resource where it's like you can find Black therapists? I don't know that. Haven't
Yeah,
looked more into
there
it. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you know,
yeah,
but a lot of us don't know. We don't know, or we get referred to, or we get told no. So, and then that's the end of the conversation, like with that
yeah.
dude. So, um, yeah. So,
Yeah, I like, thank you for sharing that. Veteran mental health is really important to me. I have veterans in my family, my aunt, my brother-in-law, my cousin, my late grandfather, and other people. And what it just really hurt my heart to hear you describe the plight that he was experiencing, as far as I'm articulating to you all that you need to engage in better cultural competence and have a variety of providers that can speak to my experience, that I don't have to be gaslighted by a professional that will never understand what it is to live in this skin, have served the country, and to still come home to all the things that are present here. So just to say it here, some resources that anyone can tap into. One is Psychology Today. You can put in a zip
okay.
code of where you are. It's free. Go online, put in your zip code, put in a city. You can filter for specifically Black women, Black men, the different subpopulations that you might belong to, that you want someone that can cater to your need. You have, for Black women, Therapy for Black Girls has a registry. Therapy for Black Men has a registry. It's escaping me now. I think I'm so glad you said this. I think I'm gonna do an episode.
Oh, that would be great.
Listing resources that
Yeah.
people can do, but that's part of what I'm trying to work on too, as far as like the whole Black expat experience and mental health, is for expats to know these are places that you can connect to if you're outside your country, your home country, to get mental health support. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. Let me write that down.
Yeah, that would actually be really great. Very helpful.
Okay, I'll probably do that on IG Live with mental health resources. Thank you for sharing that. And just a few more. Oh, this has been such a good conversation.
I know it has been. And I actually have a question
Yeah, go ahead.
about this.
Yeah.
and this just dawned on me,
Uh-huh.
like, just the fact that I know that there's not resources in Sierra Leone, but I'm wondering if, like, and I don't know how this could be done, but and I'm not too knowledgeable on it, but I'm wondering if there's ways to connect um like continental Africans that don't have resources to get their like seek therapy like online. Like I wish that there was like a way to connect those does that make sense? Like
Yes.
that would be kind of dope. Like, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's being done. I feel like that would be really cool. Like a program that was like able to usher them to seek, like if you want you can seek it online, or like there's a place you can go, just that. I
Yes.
don't think that that's being done,
I
like
know
now that I'm
exactly.
thinking about it.
So we can definitely have more conversations later to seek out what kind of resources would be available. I would even say
Yeah,
what kind of community supports, because maybe individual therapy isn't the best for some individuals. Maybe
yeah,
group setting, more community circles,
yeah, that would be
tapping
kind of
into
cool.
more cultural based therapeutic
Yeah,
practices. So let's further this discussion. Um,
yeah, that would be really cool. Like I
and
just I just
like,
thought about it now because I'm like, like, you know and also too, like this is the most conversation I've had about mental health, and like it's just so interesting to me because like I think I need to dive more in for myself to
uh,
like um learn more about this for myself, because I'm still learning
my
and
job
trying to
is
grasp it
my
all.
job is done. Listen,
Yes.
that is the
Yeah.
point. So I definitely would like us to collaborate and see
Yeah.
what that looks like. So I challenge you, see what is available, right? And then we can
Mm,
identify what would be some culturally appropriate practices to engage in. How do we
mm,
begin to educate, individuals in Sierra Leone with the community that you belong to about what mental health actually is and how that can
mm,
fit in their daily lives, um, and align that with what are holistic ways to care for yourself when you notice maybe they don't know this is anxiety, but it shows up like these
yeah.
particular ways. So when we can't put a name to it, we know we can describe what's happening. So
Mm,
there's a lot that can actually be born out of this. I'm letting you know.
mm. Yeah, that's pretty just because I know, like, in the Sierra Leone has been through so much, and the
Yeah.
trauma
Mhm.
um some of these people have gone through, especially like the older generations. I would say like um people who are, I would say, 30 and above remember or experienced, if they were in Sierra Leone during the time, um the Civil War. So the trauma, and a lot of the suppressed, like, you know, or the things that they suppress, and like the things that they didn't get the opportunity to have therapy or talk about it or anything like that. They just kind of had to move on, you
And
know.
it gets stored in their body. Trauma is
Yes.
a physical
Yeah.
reaction to things.
And
So
it's also generational too, because it's like not only did that generate, which mind you, Civil War wasn't even that long ago. So like, and then those children having to take that, with them, like it's a lot. Like that's a lot.
mhm,
There's a lot of healing to be done for sure, and I see it.
mhm.
Like, so yeah, this is definitely another conversation more.
Yeah, just
So,
have
anyways,
more conversations for sure. But this is literally what just happened is the reason I started this platform for that,
hmm,
for the world to see that Black people exist everywhere, belong everywhere, and we can tend to our mental health so that we can thrive. It really just shape shift the narrative of, well,
hmm,
that's not for us. Well, everything's for us if we want it to be. So
hmm.
I want you to share with us, any final thoughts that you have. Like, what are you most proud of about this journey that you've chosen to partake in?
Um, I am. I'm proud that like, I don't know, I'm just proud that I made it this year. So like, this is my end of year like interview slash journal, because a year ago I was literally transitioning out, and now I'm here, and it's been a lot of highs and lows. Um, right now, I wish I could say right now at this point in time is a high. It's not, just because I'm still trying to figure things out. I don't have all my ducks in a row. That's just the truth.
I wouldn't add
um,
yet to that. Yet.
yet. Um, but I also, there's a lot of plans I have, and there's a lot of things that I want to do, and a lot of places I want to see. So I'm excited for that. Um, so yeah, I'm just happy that I like this. I can't believe that I took that leap. Like that is pretty wild because I gave up a career to do this. It's just pretty wild. So I'm just glad I'm afloat. I'm I'm survived. I'm okay. You know, I had family and friends, people judging me, people like, you know, you're not gonna make it, or you're gonna come back to the Air Force, or what are you doing? Like, you know, just all these things. And I made it, and I'm fine. And yeah,
More than fine, I'd say.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll be all right. I will
You
be
are
all right.
already all right. Okay.
Yep.
Got to recognize when people try to put their stress and their fear and their anxiety on you, that's because you're doing things that they want to do.
Hmm.
And they haven't trusted themselves enough to break away from that safety net, and bet on themselves. So every time that you have a moment of fear, which is fine, the fear is not the issue, it's how are you responding to it. But whenever that
Hmm.
doubt starts to creep in, that fear creeps in, or you're attaching to somebody else's stuff, remind yourself of what you've already done, right?
Hmm.
That most people can't and won't do. And if you've done it already, you can do it continuously.
Hmm. Yep.
Well, share.
Wow.
What's the wow? Tell me what's the wow.
Yeah, it's just like, just this whole like conversation. I'm being so honest, like before
Please.
like coming and talking to you, like I almost was gonna like say like, I don't think I am ready to do this
I felt
interview.
that.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't ready. And so I'm glad that I did. Um, because I was ready, and I feel I've gotten a lot more clarity, I think, from this conversation.
I'm so happy.
Um, and so I can like look back at this interview and be like, you know, this is where I was.
Mhm.
This is how I was feeling at that point in time. And I'll remember this. And I only go up from here. So
Facts. Facts.
yeah.
I appreciate you trusting me with this conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I am rooting for you. I feel that there might be a partnership in the future with the whole mental health thing, and moving forward with what does it look like to support those back home in Sierra Leone, or even yourself.
Mm.
Share with us how we can reach you if we want to continue to follow your journey.
Yeah. So on Instagram right now, it's Keeks, Keeks .travels. But yeah, I've been posting travel content. I'm not an expert or anything,
Have to be.
super casual. But yeah, I'm just trying to share my journey, and I want to do more like content specific to Africa. Like that's what I really want to do. Um, but I also find it, I think I want because you're not the first person who has like mentioned the whole like book thing, but like I want to write. Like I don't see myself creating like I want to be in the background. Like I actually don't want to be on social media. Like I don't want to create content, but I also want to share my journey. And I feel like an equal balance would be maybe I should just write it out.
Oh, start a blog.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, maybe I should I don't know. So not saying that it's like, but that's what I think could be a happy medium for me because, and also too, when this interview does go out, a lot of people don't even know I'm a virtual assistant. I don't even tell people. Um, I
Well,
don't.
can
I
you
don't.
plug your business right now, please?
No. The reason why I don't tell this is the reason why I don't tell people because um the reason why I don't tell anyone like about just the I guess like about my professional life is because I feel like a lot of people like to like chime in and like ask I just want to do what I need to do and focus on more important, like, yes, being a virtual assistant, love it, love working with people, love my clients, love it. And it's given me the freedom to go wherever, but that's not like my main focus. My main focus is Africa at the moment and what I can do to be impactful on the ground. um and working on actually officially moving there, like, I've already like made the strides. um it's just, so that's basically just kind of like what I'm thinking. That's the reason why I don't really talk about it, is just because like and then I'm also a very private person, so I don't want that to be like, I don't want what I'm doing professionally to be what defines me, you know.
I hear you, but I know my face is like, okay.
I know you're like, but so yeah, but this interview, people will know that's what I do, but I don't really talk about it. And I just want to be in the background. And I also too, a lot of people were like, oh, like you need to, in order to like get business, you need to be like super social media heavy. And I don't want to be. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try and do this without people knowing. And so now, I obviously I get a lot of my business through like referrals and connecting on like LinkedIn and things like that. But like I don't want it to be what defines me. I want people to know about other things about Kiera. So
I
there's
have a challenge for you.
that. Okay.
I hear that you are goal oriented. There are things that you really want to lean into, but I also hear that you're afraid of the criticism that comes along with it.
Yeah, maybe so.
My daddy always says, if somebody ain't talking about you, you ain't doing it right. And you have to know that if you're living for people's praise, you will die by their criticism. So I just encourage you to shift the gaze. Let it be what is going to drive you. Put out into the world what is in alignment with what you want. If you love being a virtual assistant, people first got to be able to find you, but you can determine how frequent you're on social media. You can identify what the happy medium is, because the thing that popped into my head was, okay, then you need to start a blog, right? And create a community that way. But I just challenge you to, when you notice that you are more externally focused on what other people will say and do and all of these things, because they always will, identify what that's about. Because if you are allowing the potential criticisms of others to stop the success that you could potentially have, then are you really living in your purpose?
Yeah, definitely. You caught me there, because I do feel a bit, it's also too like, I also feel like I don't want to come off as like a failure too, because like I feel like if I'm showcasing this is what, this is what Kiera is doing, or this is a project she's working on, or like she started a blog, or she starting this or doing this. And then like, one day they don't see me doing it. Then people are like, well, what happened? Did you fail? What changed? Same thing with like, right now where I'm doing like, trying to do like, I guess, content creation. I'm genuinely like afraid to like stop, and then people be like, okay, so do you not do those things that you were preaching about now? Like, because I just, and that was even hard for me to even start that, because I didn't even want to do that. So I feel like I don't like people's opinions.
No, I hear that. That
Yeah.
is ringing loud and clear. And so
Yeah.
when you notice that you don't like people's opinions, are you ready to move forward in birthing this empire that you're trying to birth? Everybody has an
Yeah,
opinion. You don't
that's
have to
true.
give them any type of validity though, right? It's learning how to set that boundary. Thank you for sharing, and keep it moving, right?
Yep.
You get to
Yep.
choose what you allow to stick for you, but you have to first have a really deep understanding of your purpose. What's your why? Why are you doing this? What's motivating you? What is the passion that's driving the effort? And when you can align your behavior to that, it's honestly, what's the best hope that you have for the platform that you're creating, for the work that you want to do? What does that look like? And knowing that people's criticism comes along with that, but that's not anything that you have to pay attention to. Your voice has to be the loudest.
That's true.
I'm so grateful. Listen, so much, Kiera.
You have helped me. You have actually helped me. Thank you.
I'm happy. I'll be trying not to go full therapist mode, child. It'd be hard.
No. But like, and literally everything that you said is so valuable, and I'm literally taking everything, because I don't have these conversations with people at all. I don't really have conversations about like my professional life, about, things I'm doing, in my personal life, obviously close family and friends, know about things, but I don't really have these conversations. And so it's helpful to me. So yeah.
Here's my suggestion for you. I want you to go on to Psychology Today, put in your zip code, filter it to whichever demographic you would prefer to be a therapist for you, and try to find someone. I think because one of the things you shared was communication. When you talked about the advancement of mental health in our communities, it's conversations. And you're literally right now a living testament to say, I don't have these conversations that often. And just through this conversation, has nothing to do with me, but your willingness to be open, so much has been like, I think the veil has been lifted on some things, and then so much has been unearthed for you in this conversation. And only you will know what that is, that you owe it to yourself to invest. It's an investment in your future, your well-being, to identify someone that is unbiased, that is going to have undivided attention to you, that is a professional that can help you to kind of figure out what is the stronghold that keeps you from doing more of the bold things that you've already done. Figuring out how to be consistent with that and changing the mindsets around it. So I don't say that to you because I think anything's wrong with you or not, but I think that it would be a value.
Yeah. No, that I believe everybody should seek like some sort of therapy, to be quite honest. I've never actually went to an actual therapist, so I think this is be very helpful for me. I have been thinking about that actually.
Well, this is
yep, this is my confirmation. I have been thinking about that, and I think I definitely should.
Awesome. So you can do psychologytoday.com or go to therapyforblackgirls.com, and it should list like your state or whatever to see the directory of providers that would be able to assist you.
Okay.
I'm so
Well,
happy that we
thank
had this
you.
conversation. And so for everyone that's watching, I want to thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Black Expat Experience. As always, I encourage you to keep taking risks, impacting your communities, and most of all, prioritizing your mental health. I want to say thank you again to Kiera for joining us today and giving us all the knowledge of her amazing experience. And please share this in your community so we continue to show the world that Black people exist and thrive and live abundantly everywhere. And with that, I will say peace and thank you.